Okay, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and I am a black belt candidate in Ishinryu, Okinawan Karate and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. Let me start this video by saying that what I'm going to discuss is an American Kenpo Karate combination borrowed by Okinawan Karate, as well as the Okinawan Bunkai of Seisan Kata and other kata, and unskilled people who like to be bench warmers and couch potatoes and armchair quarterbacks or whatnot, to use some cliches, they think they know better than professional mixed martial artists and fighters and professional self defense instructors. And so when they see us teaching self defense in 3/4 speed for practice, they're like, oh, that would never work in reality, blah, 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 blah. We're doing it at demonstration speed so we don't kill one another. So please understand that. That's what the purpose of demonstration speed is versus full speed. If you do these techniques full speed, you're going to maim your demonstration partner and you'll run out of demonstration partners within about half an hour. All right. So that's the purpose of not doing it full speed with your demonstration partner. All right, so the combination I'm going to discuss is comes from American Kenpo Karate, and it's called Five Swords, and it's also taught to white belts and yellow belts and whatnot in Ishinryu Okinawan Karate, because Ishinryu Karate adapts and learns the best from every style. And this is not magic; it's pretty basic actually. That's why it's taught to white and yellow belts. But we find that in real self defense situations, especially for women, this combination really helps them defend themselves, especially when used in combination with Seisan Kata Bunkai. All right, so what is Five Swords? Well, it turns out that in real self defense situations, especially schoolyard brawls and drunken brawls, two of the most common scenarios that probably make up 80 to 90% of all opening scenarios of a self defense situation is that the aggressor, the attacker, throws some sort of right handed punch, usually a right hook, a right overhand, which is the more skilled overhand, or the unskilled right overhand hammer fist attack, are probably the three most common first attacks in a street self defense situation that the evil attacker throws, especially schoolyard brawls and most street self defense situations. All right. So, what is Five Swords? Also, if you're in a situation where you're in an argument with somebody in at school or at work or on the street, and you're in a natural sort of even stance, just standing here, and the person comes up to you and is arguing with you and stuff, don't step back into a martial arts stance right away, because that looks like some form of escalation. All right. And then when the other person realizes you do know karate or jujitsu or whatever your primary style is, they're like, "Oh, you know karate, you know karate. I know karate too." Wham! They're going to swing at you for sure. So just stand there in your natural stance, your natural position, and first of all, try to talk them down. But if that's become unreasonable and it's obvious that they're throwing a punch at you because you see it coming, what are you going to do? If you have no training and drilling ahead of time, then you're just relying on natural talent, and talent alone may as well not even be a martial art, right? What's the point in skills if you don't practice something? So the purpose of the Five Swords combination is the right hook punch or the right overhand is coming in, and you're going to step into the punch, intercept it, and counterattack that arm with a double chop block. All right. One is going to go here in the radius of the attacker's arm, and the other is going to go in the bicep of the arm. I made a video of this a couple of days ago. Bicep of the arm. And then you're going to counterattack with a chop, a outside chop to either the neck, the jaw, or the eyes, or the temple, either way. A palm heel strike to the jaw with potentially an eye gouge following. All right. And in this case, I'm going to stop at the third counterattack in the combination, which is an uppercut under the floater rib to the body, a body blow uppercut to the floater under the floater rib, which will most likely break their floater rib and possibly rupture their left lung in this case. All right. So you may be like, well, what happens if your opponent throws another punch right immediately after you double chop block? You're going to use the same motion. Instead of counterattacking to the face immediately, you're now going to chop block the second punch as you simultaneously palm heel, and you're immediately going to load this punch into the uppercut to the body. All right. There are 2 more counterattacks in this 5 counterattack combination, but I don't find the other 2 to be that necessarily useful because they could be anything. Once you hit the person with a real Ishinru uppercut to the body, all right, a body blow uppercut under the floater rib, they're going to be doubled over. You're going to be able to grab them by the back of the head and pull them into a knee strike or do whatever you want to with them. You'll be able to finish them off. And, once they're stop attacking you, hit them one more time for good measure, and then stop counterattacking if there's only one opponent. One more hit for good measure, and then stop counterattacking. That's the counter force with equal force. If there are 2 or more attackers, and you already know to begin with that there are 2 or more attackers, things get more complicated. Then you need to know some Japanese jiu-jitsu, and Gracie jiu-jitsu doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt either, because you don't want to be wallowing on the ground wrestling with somebody when there's 2 or 3 people beating the hell out of you, especially if one of them draws a knife or a pipe or something and starts hitting you in the back of the head or a beer bottle or whatnot. All right, so if there's 2 or more attackers, and you already know to begin with that there's 2 or more attackers, we're going to do something totally different when the person throws their first punch. So the hook punch comes in, you're going to parry the punch, you're going to inside parry the punch. You, out of the camera, are going to block this punch with your left hand, and you're going to get to the outside of the guard of the other person. You're going to pass the hand off in a windmill block to your right hand, and you're going to pass guard, and then you're going to go into a reverse neck breaker position. Their wrist will be pinned to your waist, the one that you caught with your right, you caught with your left hand and passed it to your right hand. You pin it to your waist, and you go into reverse neck breaker position, and you keep their body between yourself and the second and or third attacker. So that the second or third attacker needs to completely flank you to try to get around their friend to continue attacking you. This person might try to bite you, but if you do the reverse neck breaker correctly, your arm will be across here and their teeth won't be able to reach your arm. And if you absolutely need to, as the name implies, you can go ahead and break their neck and throw their lifeless body at their friend and whatnot. If it's a street self-defense and it's a life or death situation, you're outnumbered 2 or 3 to 1. I do authorize lethal to near lethal force. But we call this force escalation. All right, we're not going to kill somebody in a one-on-one street self-defense situation unless it's absolutely necessary. We're not going to kill somebody anytime in a self-defense situation unless it's necessary. I would prefer to beat the tar out of all of the attackers and teach them a lesson and make them run away from me. But if it ever became absolutely necessary, as the name implies, you can go ahead and kill that person and throw their lifeless body at the second or third attacker. And you might decide to take off running, or they might decide to take off running when they see how effortlessly you defeat the first attacker. And that's the point. So you're going to use instantaneous destructive force, what we call instantaneous destructive force, in your street self-defense. So we say in Ishinru Karate, certainly at brown and black belt level, that every strike can be a block and every block can be a strike. So there's no dedicated blocks in Ishinru Karate at brown and black belt plus level. Understand? So that's why this chop block is actually an attack into the arm. And you may say, isn't there something even better that you can do? Can I chop block and just go ahead and knife hand strike this person straight into the throat if I need to with the other hand? Yes, you can. Matter of fact, I think this is also either Wansu or Chinto Kata. We actually do that. The hook punch is coming in, and we're going to block the hook punch and torque our body straight into a knife hand strike straight into the throat. And the person is immediately disabled and possibly dead. And it's their fault. They threw the punch first. And again, I would only use that if I were outnumbered 2 or 3 to 1. I wouldn't do that one-on-one because a judge might not believe that that's believable self-defense if it's one-on-one. How about that interesting double punch that Daniel uses in the Cobra Kai against Terry Silver? All right, is a double punch ever practical? Not really. All right. So why are there double punches in some Okinawan karate? The style of karate that's being taught is Miyagi-Do, which actually comes from Uchiru in Okinawa. All right. and it goes along with, it's related to Goju-Ryu, Shorin-Ryu, and Isshin-Ryu karate. They're all related that go back to the same instructors, Chojin Miyagi being the chief instructor that founded what branched into all four of those styles. All right, the real Chojin Miyagi was, in fact, the founder of all four, the original founder of all four of those major styles. Although technically Tatsuya Shimabuku recombined Goju-Ryu and Shorin-Ryu. Now, so what is a double punch and why is it in katas sometimes if it's not very practical because it's not very good kime or body mechanics to throw a double punch? You can't get a full torque on either punch. So why is it in the kata? The answer is that literally at least 99% of the time, the double punch is a stand-in for a throwing maneuver, a grappling and throwing maneuver. The high punch is perhaps hitting to the solar plexus and then grabbing the shirt. The low punch is hitting to the bladder or groin and then grabbing the opponent by the groin or the inseam of their gi or pants, and then you're throwing them over your shoulder. All right. So, as a striking maneuver, that Cobra Kai scene where Daniel beats Terry Silver with a double punch, being one of the combinations that he uses against Terry Silver, that's more children's nonsense than it is practical, because even though that is in kata, it's a submission grappling maneuver. It's not an actual striking maneuver. And of course, the crane kick is complete nonsense. I don't know why they insist on putting that in yet another Karate Kid movie. It was already in two of them, and it was nonsense the first two times. All right. There is a double front jump kick in Shinto Kata, and I think there's one in Kuzanzu Kata too, or at least one version of Kuzanzu. And it doesn't involve all this nonsense with your arms holding up here and all this kind of stuff. It's a double front jump kick from standing guard. And we don't even encourage using that double front jump kick unless it's just flat out there to use it. It's got to be wide open to use it before it's safe to do that. It's good for fitness to be able to double front jump kick, I suppose. But as a practical self-defense or professional fighting maneuver, for say cage fighting, it's 9 times out of 10 what's actually going to happen is you will end up falling on your behind, and then you'll get laughed at and beat up by your opponent because you're going to hurt your tailbone when you fall on your behind. All right. So Bunkai, Seisan Kata is basically a grappling and counterpunching kata. Although, say, Onshin kata is the one whose name means grapple and destroy, Seisan kata means 13 because there are 13 sequences of combinations in Seisan kata. One of the things from Seisan kata that I like to do that works even against brown and black belt level fighters is when they throw a punch, and let's say I'm in a orthodox stance, slightly angled orthodox stance, and my opponent throws a punch at me, I'm going to grapple the punch and step aside, and then I'm going to counter attack under their left armpit, straight into the upper rib cage and the left armpit right here. We're attacking the heart and the left lung in this case, and it's potentially going to break their ribs, by the way, and potentially screw up their lungs and heart some. All right. This is the kind of stuff you need to know for street self-defense, and you need to drill it and practice it and make sure you're able to execute it for street self-defense. Unfortunately, we can't practice this full power in the dojo. Now, can we, couch potatoes and armchair quarterbacks? So when we practice this, we need demonstration speed, which we usually define as 3/4 contact to make sure that we're doing it right. Because if you did it full contact, like I said, we'd run out of demonstration partners within half an hour. We'd kill everybody. All right. The lapel grab, where you have the two-armed lapel grab, where the person is grabbing you like this by the collar or or just by your shirt here. All right. Never let anybody grab you in a street situation. It doesn't matter if it's a school campus or if it's in the street or a bar room or whatever. Never let anybody grab you. That's automatically a personal and violation of your personal private space. All right. And so never let anybody grab you. As soon as they grab you, it's become a self-defense situation. And so when they grab you, you're going to, hey man, leave me alone. But at the same time, you're going to palm heel or hook punch to the side of the jaw or the temple, possibly rake the eyes. At the same time, you're going to grab across both of their arms and grab the knife hand of the opposite hand from your right hand. So it'll be their right hand too, but it'll be here on your lapel grabbing you or on your collar. You're going to grab the knife hand edge with your right hand, not your left as I'm doing, and you're going to toe it, turn it, and roll it over into the reverse wrist lock. Once you get the reverse wrist lock, you're going to pin it to your belt knot level on your hip over here. And then from here, you keep the reverse wrist lock on them with one hand, and you keep their elbow fully extended so they can't pull their arm in like this. You want to make sure before you start to counterattack, you're going to make sure that your hand has locked their elbow out. Your left hand locks their elbow out while your right hand pins them in the reverse wrist lock to your belt knot level. All right. Once their elbow is locked out and they're kind of screwed, you can then back fist them in the face with your left hand, or you can throw knee strikes with either leg and kicks into their abdomen and rib cage, or you can knee strike them or kick them or sweep them in the back of the knee. And if you need to, you can step down and stomp down on the back of their knee and just stand on the back of their knee once they're fully grounded. All right. And you still want to keep side arm control. And anybody that claims that I don't know how to fight because they've never seen this in the UFC, the honest to God truth is most people in the UFC have never seen this. All right. That's the honest to God truth. This is what will save your life in a street self-defense situation. Wallowing on the ground in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is not what's going to save your life in a street self-defense situation, especially if there are two or more attackers. What I'm teaching you will save your life, especially if there are, in fact, two or more attackers in a street self-defense situation. All right. Answer this. If Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is such a superior martial art, how come police officers never use it? And if Aikido is such a bad martial art, how come police officers use Aikido and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, but they don't use Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? Very simple answer. As a police officer, they don't want to be walking around on the ground with a suspect that they don't know whether the suspect has a knife or who knows what, or gun or who knows what. Whereas with an Aikido or Japanese Jiu-Jitsu throw or submission, they're able to disable and cuff the person and get them to the ground, and they're still standing up, and their opponent is grounded and subdued. So, in spite of the fact that I studied for a year and a half at multiple Gracie dojos and UFC dojos teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, police officers never use Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in the line of duty. They do use Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido in the line of duty. And they've specifically been trained by experts such as Steven Seagal at the New Orleans Police Department and the Kenner Police Department in Aikido and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. So if Aikido is so bad, why do police officers use it? Because it works, and you're a liar if you think it's bad and you're incompetent. And if Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is so awesome, why do police officers never use Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? Because it, first of all, does not work when your opponent can throw a punch and hit you in the face. And second of all, it does not work when your opponent can draw a knife or a gun and you don't even see that they have a knife or gun until it's too late because you're bear hugging somebody instead of being at a safe distance from them. Bear hugging an unidentified attacker is not a good idea in a street self-defense situation. By the way, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu people, you want to keep an appropriate safe range so that you can see whether they're drawing a weapon and what your strategy needs to change if they are drawing a weapon. All right. I think I'm done with this video because I'm approaching 20 minutes. I'm at 1945. Thank you very much. And hopefully a few people will watch this and learn a thing or two. And if everybody wants to remain in ignorance, let them remain ignorant. Is all I know how to tell anybody that doesn't believe it.